Okay, today we are going to be using a half cup of water and a watercolor brush, and then of course your Dragon Eye project. When you are using the brush, it is important not to get too much water on your paper. So if you start to get any pools of water or anything like that, you'll need to, I call it squeegee. You just kind of squeeze the water out of there as much as you can, and then you lay your brush so that it can absorb that extra water. You should not have any puddles though, okay? And to avoid that in the first place, we're going just to lightly, just gently, just so that there is some water on the brush, and you can see like the bristles are together and not spread apart. If they start spreading apart, you need to dip and get some more water. And when we're painting, we're going to go from light areas, I'm going to turn it this way, to dark areas. And wherever it's wet, the water can go. So it was starting to get dry, so I dipped it in there a little bit, and then I'm just continuing to go. Notice how my hand is planted, and I'm just moving the brush so my hand's planted and I'm controlling so that this is just kind of to a point. If you want thicker lines, you know, you let more of the brush go down onto that area, okay? So if you've gone into the dark area and you want things lighter, you just, again, rinse it. Notice I swished it around in there and then went back. And you want to completely do an area, otherwise if you let stuff dry, sometimes you can get these little inconsistencies. Okay, so let's look at the Dragon Eye. And just like we did the project, you want to do the skin first, okay? And I'd start around the eye area and then work out, just like we did on the project, because wherever the paper is wet, then the paint can run there. So I would just do this around the eye first. And you can kind of see how things are blending. If you want to kind of leave some of those areas lighter, again, I can lighten up by dipping in to my cup, squeegee it off. I want those nice and dark, so I'm just following that line, but I want the other part a little bit lighter, so I'm just, while it's still wet, going into those areas so that the paint can run into it and kind of blend together. So the eye first. If you want to do, I'm just kind of working out. Notice I went to the light areas and then to the dark areas. Okay, so then after all of the skin is completely done, just do one more little area. Then notice I'm swishing again the bristles, and now I'm going to make sure that this area is dry, and you can do that by touching it, and if it feels cool to the touch, it is still wet. So I just kind of went over that area. So I'm going to go ahead, this area is dry because I did not go over that area. So just dip in there and start here at the lightest area and start moving into the darker area. And if it starts to get too dark for you, then just rinse it and squeegee it again. Again, you don't want any pools of water. And you can see I'm just kind of keeping that brush on the paper. Okay, then you're going to be doing your flames. You gotta make sure things next to it are dry. We're going to start with this whiter area. And then move into the dark area. It's kind of nice to go a little bit, faster than you are used to, especially with like colored pencils. That just takes a lot of time. But if you want to get some swirling effects and stuff like that, since watercolor will go where it's wet, it kind of swirls around and blends together. Again, if you get too much water on there, just squeegee it out and then just pull it up. And you can see how that just kind of absorbs. I want to lighten this area just a little bit. So I can just clean my brush, squeegee out really good, and then it will absorb that paint up. So finish up then your iris with what you have, and then you're going to do very last, and I'm not going to yet because this part of my paper is still wet, and you can touch it, and if, again, you can either see it's kind of shiny or you can see that it's just wet. So last of all, the pupil. Okay, so again, start at the eye, work out, and then you're going to be doing the black part on the eyeball, and then your iris, and then very last your pupil. And again, when you change from one color to the next, make sure it is dry. Okay? And that you're going from light areas to dark areas, and if it gets too dark, just rinse it. At the end of class, you'll need to make sure that you thoroughly clean your brush, run it under the water in the sink, and when there's no more pigment coming down off of it, and you're just kind of combing it as it's under the water to flush out all that pigment. Also, one thing when we are taking care of brushes, you only just put it just on the table. You don't ever leave your brush in the cup. Okay, so this absorbs water, paints, and things like that, and it can come into this area and weaken the glue, and that's why sometimes when the end of your brush falls off, that's why, because someone stored it incorrectly into a cup of water. So, have fun.